What's up, y'all? I'm Robert Glasper, and this is the LSQ Podcast.
What's up? I'm Jenny LSQ. Welcome to episode 72 of the LSQ Podcast with the amazing Grammy-winning pianist, producer, songwriter, and arranger Robert Glasper, whose work encompasses jazz, hip-hop, R&B, and more, and who has the kind of fuck-a-genre attitude that I love the most. In this conversation, Robert and I delve into some of the evolutionary moments in his creative journey, like when Roy Hargrove came to play at Robert's Performing Arts High School in Houston, and he realized that you could be a successful jazz musician without having to wear slacks. Or like when he and Bilal, whom he'd met on the first day of college in New York, would take the bus down to Philly to see neo-soul artists like The Roots and Common. And Common is one of the artists appearing on the highly anticipated third installment in his Black Radio albums series. That's coming out on February 25th, and so, of course, we talk about that new album as well, and about how he approaches his creative process and collaborations in particular. Black Radio 3, by the way, features new collaborations with Terrace Martin, H.E.R, Esperanza Spalding, I mentioned Common already, Q-Tip, Ty Dolla $ign, and many more. Oh, also, where we begin here, when Robert and I connected over Zoom late last year, I had just been to see one of the performances in his annual residency at the Blue Note, and we started like this. I gotta say, right from go, that I was at one of those shows during the residency.
Oh, nice!
The first of the dinner party shows, and also
I think was Denzel Curry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Denzel Curry.
Cool. Yeah.
It was awesome. It was also my first indoor show since
Oh wow!
Since the reality we're in. But yeah, I want to start off, and welcome to the LSQ Podcast, Robert.
Thank you.
Jumping right in with you. I want to start off by asking about that Blue Note residency, which is epic and which is started as 50-something shows in the course of a month and is now up to more than 60, but something you started doing back in 2018. And it's a thing every year. So at this point in it, I'm just curious, like, are you starting to picture new phases of it and everything? Because your energy at that show that I saw was so, like, you're constantly thinking of, like, taking in everything that's happening in the room and calculating.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's every year it's gotten bigger and more eyes are on it. And every year I have even just more people just wanting to be a part of it. Like, hey, that's happening this year. Like, literally people fly in to just be a surprise person to pop up, and you know what I mean, stuff like that. So it's becoming like I feel like it really was right on time this year too. You know what I mean? Because of people haven't been out. So I think it hit like a different way this time, because it was just like, oh, we needed it. And I needed it. Before I was always on tour, and that was just another thing I had to do, and I enjoyed it. But like this one, I needed it, you know what I mean? And then the audience also needed it. I think it was different on that front. But I have so many ideas. The owners of the Blue Note their wheels are spinning. And, I think we're going to try to take it to another place, higher, thinking of some ideas to do, but definitely make it bigger and make it a thing,
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I'm fascinated about you as an artist is the way in which your world just keeps growing and growing, and you find ways to keep it all connected. And it's like it's all with the vision of who you are, who you are, that kind of thing. And so fuck a genre, like who cares what the genre is? And these Black Radio albums that we're now on the cusp of installment number 3 at the early part of 2022, around when this will be coming out, has become such an amazing, not just collection of music, but phenomena where it's like on multiple charts and like, what category for the Grammys is it? It could be any number of categories, which is my favorite kind of music. Yeah. But seeing the residency, it's like, was there an overlap in these two ideas, this building an even bigger collaboration and like being more open to more voices? Like, did you picture those, the album version and the residency version? How have those developed together?
Yeah, no, they definitely overlapped in a great way, because I was able to, some of the people that I've worked with on this album, on Black Radio, I've never performed with live ever. I was just fans of, or knew them but never really rocked yet. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people like that where I've hung out and everything, but we just never really rocked. And I know like once we rock, it's going to be something. So there's a lot of artists that were on Black Radio, that are on Black Radio 3. But our first time performing was on the Blue Note stage this time. You know, H.E.R, BJ Chicago Kid, D Smoke. Who else?
You're saying that you recorded the track for Black Radio 3 with them before your first time in real life on stage together.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
So they're already on the album, but this past October, last month was the first time we actually got a chance to be on stage at the same time. A lot of the time for my Black Radio albums, I've been on stage with a lot of the people. Well, definitely the first one, I was on stage with pretty much everybody before. Pretty much everybody. Beforehand, I knew them for years, blah, 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 blah. Then the second Black Radio album, it was like half of the people I had rocked with, and the other half I was just fans of, and they heard about Black Radio 1, so they wanted to rock too, so it worked out, you know?
I mean, it must open up a whole other level of like ideas for you for that artist once you finally get to see what they do. Even like the show I saw with Denzel Curry, like it felt to me like you were kind of, you know, I don't know, like not testing him. I don't want to say that, but like you were giving him the rules of like, this is a jazz club, like, because he was a little nervous or he felt a little out of his element. And so I, as a producer, like you must, whenever an artist that you're like, I know that it was great on the track, but let's see what happens when we try and do our thing in real time. And maybe it doesn't always work because people have different skills, but like when it works, then there's, well, when we get to Black Radio 4, now we can do something another level with that same person.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it was exactly that, because that's the thing. A lot of these people, when they don't do small clubs like this, you know what I mean? So this is just a different thing. And some people, when they hear the word jazz, they see Blue Note, blah, 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 so like jazz, and they're like, oh, you know, they're enamored by the name, the jazz, but it's like they don't know how to act when it's like there, you know what I mean? They don't know what to do, so they get nervous. But it's like this is when you at least have to be nervous. You can do whatever, because that's what this space is. You know what I mean? We come in here and we just work stuff out, and everything's about a moment. Like the Blue Note residency is all about moments, you know? And so that was definitely what happened with Denzel. And by the second night, he was all the way in. You know what I mean? He totally got it. I think he definitely stepped up as an MC, you know, even then, because he's not used to doing that. When I met Denzel, he was performing in front of like 5,000 people in Europe, like some outskirts of Germany at a festival. It was like punk rock stuff, punk rock hip hop, and he was like jumping in the mosh pits, and you know, it was crazy. But then now we go, and you got to fit in a room with 300 people. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, how do I do this? What is this? You know?
Yeah, it was cool to see him get more comfortable with it. Like I saw the first night, but it was cool to see him relax into it.
And the second night, we brought in Joey Badass. The second night, and they got a chance to go back and forth. It was so cool. It was really, really, really dope.
I mean, that's so one of the things that seems clearly like a passion of yours. And I really want to get into just the playing and you as an artist thing too. But when did you first notice that you notice up and coming talent? How early on did that start for you, where you're like, yeah, I do want people to pay attention to my thing, but also I can't help but want to help this other person come up too?
I think I kind of always had it in me, because I was a young person being helped, you know, so to speak. So, you know, I was a young person in college, and, you know, Roy Hargrove said, hey, come on the road with me. Christian McBride said, hey, come on the road with me. You know, all these people, Russell Malone and Mark Whitfield, all these people that knew the best of the best, but they were like, oh, he's a freshman in college. He's dope. I see something in him. Come on. You know what I mean? So that's why that's always there. You know what I mean? I always keep my eye out for that. And, you know, mediocrity is not where I live. It's just not. And I don't care about who has the hot song and they're new, they have the hot song. My shit is like a certain bar. You have to actually have talent. You have to actually be dope in a real way. It's not about the hot song. Like, fuck your hot song. Black Radio is really about, it's based off of the live stage. It's like, okay, cool, but could you come to my residency and stand on stage and we do something together and it becomes something and it's dope? You know what I mean? So that's how I'm always coming from a live standpoint, because I'm a jazz musician at heart. That's where it always lives. So I'm always coming for that. So I'm never stuck on this person, that person, they have the hot, you know, fuck that shit. I'm never about that.
It's also that whole like being open to other people being great, you know, like if you have that standard of excellence that you try and hold yourself to, and that you appreciate when you see it unequivocally, and then you see it in someone that you've never heard of before, you can't deny it. And that's like, that's exciting.
And giving them room to be great too, because sometimes you can get a great young artist. Sometimes when other people are really great, then they take somebody else really great, but then they don't give them room to be great for themselves. It's like, hey, I wrote the song. This is how you do it. This is how it's going to be. Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, okay. You could have got anybody to do that shit because you didn't let them be who they are also, So my main thing is my thing plus you equals whatever that's going to be. You know what I mean? But there always has to be a plus you in there. And that's what's great about Ant Clemons. You know what I mean? He's like he just soaks up everything. He loves jazz. He loves gospel. He loves R&B. And he loves so many styles of music. You know what I mean? And he writes like amazing. So he comes in and he's giving me something and I'm giving him something. I love that back and forth.
When did you first, just in life, feel music hit you in a way that felt important?
The thing is, I've been around music my whole life because my mom was a musician. She's gone now, but she was a musician. And, I was just talking about this the other day. She sang in the clubs, and when she couldn't find a babysitter, she had me in the back of the club, with waitresses and shit checking on me while she's on stage, like literally I'm 2-3 years old. I remember being at rehearsals. I was always around music all the time, literally all the time. So when it did hit me to, this is what I want to be, it was not because like, oh, I had a musical moment. It was because I thought I was going to be a basketball player. I was on the basketball team all through junior high school. And then my freshman year of high school, you go from junior high to high school and you change schools to go to high school. So now there's all these other students you've never seen before because they're coming from other places. And when I was on the team in high school, I was pretty good in junior high. When I got to high school, I was on the B team on the bench the whole year.
Humbling.
And I was like, yeah. And I was playing piano, like kind of like as a side thing. Like, yeah, I know how to play. And I was actually, pretty good, It's like people always ask me to play songs at school. Hey, play this and play this one. Whatever a new dope hip hop song was out or whatever. Robert, can you play some piano? And I rode that bench. And the story goes, I just slid the bench over to the piano and just. So it was really my dreams being shattered as a basketball player, which made me be like, you know what? Let me go ahead and give this music thing a shot.
But by that point, you were already just like skilled at piano to that.
By that point, I could play. Yeah, I wasn't like amazing or anything, but I could play. I was playing in church already, and all that, and I could really play. But that made me in ninth grade, once I was riding the bench, that made me say, okay, you know what? Let me go ahead and go to this performing arts high school and get serious about piano, about music, So, because I actually auditioned I'm from Houston. We have a school called High School for the Performing and Visual Arts. And I auditioned my ninth grade year and I got in, but I didn't want to go because I wanted to play basketball. So I didn't go that year. My mom was low key like, you should go ahead and do this music thing. She knew I sucked. She knew I wasn't going to be a basketball player, but she was nice about it. And then once that happened, I went ahead and went my 10th grade year. That's when I really got serious and really like zoned in there. Yeah, and all the students there are dope, so it's just you're just around greatness all the time, but they're your peers. You know what I mean? My best friend, Brian Michael Cox, went there. He's an amazing R&B producer now, and that's the thing. I used to pick him up and we would trade. He would put in R&B songs in my car, listening. He has the biggest R&B song probably in history right now. One of the biggest songs in history. He produced Mary J. Blige's "Be Without You." You know what I mean? He produced all the Mariah Carey big hits within the last 15 years. All the Usher, Burn, Confessions, blah, 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 blah. And so, but it's funny, we were talking about that the last 2 nights ago. He was here for the residency for like the last few days. And it's like, yo, we're in school, but we're learning so much, even outside of school, just being around each other. You know what I mean? When you have friends that are tuned into what they want to do, and you're tuned into what you want to do, and you can actually have conversation about it, you can actually grow outside of the school. That was the best thing ever. And you didn't even realize at the moment that's what you were doing. But that's literally what we were doing. Beyonce went there with us at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, I remember going into the practice room with her during lunchtime I mean, like, hey, let's sing this song. Let's do, you know what I mean? It's like, it was those things, those were the seeds. And now you're seeing how they blossom, you know what I mean? And I'm so glad I made that choice, because I definitely was not going to be a basketball player like I thought.
So it became your new obsession then at that point.
Absolutely.
Once you had these friends who you were like, what they're doing is amazing. It's not weird to be obsessed with this. I'm all in.
And everybody at the school's obsessed. I have dancer friends. You walk down the hallway, you see them tapping in the hallway, blah, 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 blah. You see all this talent pouring out of all the rooms in the school. And it's like, oh man, it's so inspiring. You're being inspired even when you don't know you're being inspired. You're just around greatness all the time. So it's hard not to absorb some of that.
When did writing music start to be a thing for you?
In high school. My first song I ever wrote was for a girl named Carla. That was my first time writing my first time writing a jazz tune, because I had written gospel tunes before that. Was that the same year? I think everything happened my 11th grade year, because I was the music director for this in Houston. There's a little outskirt city called Missouri City, right outside of Houston. That's where I grew up, and we started a gospel choir for Missouri City. So Missouri City Mass Choir, and we did an album. And I wrote. My mom was the director, and I wrote all the songs. So that was my first time. The gospel thing, and then my first jazz song for sure was Carla. That was my girlfriend in 11th grade. And I stole some of the chord changes from Brandy. I told her when I met Brandy, I was like, you have a real place in my life, in my jazz life, because on Brandy's first album, she has a song called Love, oh love, Love Is On My Side. That's what it's called. Love Is On My Side. And I took the first four changes of the verse, and I made the jazz tune for Carla. And we played it at the annual jazz concert. You know what I mean? Everybody knew, Robert wrote this song for Carla. It was a whole big thing. So that was my first time writing a jazz tune for sure. And I think that's what I tell people now. I think that's what started giving me my identity earlier. Because even when I got to college, people were like, yo, your songs are different. The way you write your songs are different, And I think that's what gave me an identity as a musician. Because as a musician, normally, especially when you come up to school, everybody's playing standards. You're playing all the jazz tunes that everybody knows, and nobody's pushing you to write music, really. And it's kind of hard to find who you are in other people's music, who you truly are, and just playing these jazz standards all the time. So, I started writing, like I said, in 11th grade, and I kind of never stopped. And I used my influences of gospel and R&B, playing gigs and shows with my mom and stuff, So I have all this R&B in me and gospel in me and pop rock in me. My mom did pop rock gigs too. I know, look, Broadway gigs. I know more Liza Minnelli and Bette Midler than a black man should. My mom, she was so eclectic. Like her music, she did so many different kinds of gigs during the week. So she'd be playing that music in the house. You know what I mean? So all that's in there. That's why I love Billy Joel so much, and Elton John, and so many artists that I love, especially the ones that play piano too. You know what I mean? That's a part of my thing. Billy Joel's one of my favorite piano players,
So then you came to New York for college, and that must have just kind of taken it to another level in terms of seeing the world that you actually like. This is where I can be. This is where I could live for a while.
1,000%. I knew I wanted to go to New York. That's where I wanted to be. I was ready to go to a community college in New York. I didn't give a damn, as long as it was in New York. So at first I got a full scholarship to Berkeley. I was angry about that, but I was like, fuck, well, it's Berkeley, but it's not in New York. Because I already knew, like, everybody goes anywhere to school. If you do music, you're going to New York. After that, you're going to go. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to beat everybody to it. So not long after I got my full scholarship to Berkeley, I got a full scholarship to the new school in New York.
Yeah, you did.
Fuck yes. I mean, what you learn outside of the school is more than you're going to learn in any school, period, anywhere. I mean, the jam sessions alone, that's really what makes you grow up. You know what I mean? Going to those jam sessions. Some places I would go, certain piano players would get on before me, and I wouldn't play after that. I was so scared. I was the best in Houston, in my mind. I'm like, I get to New York. You get humbled so fast, you know what I mean? And you really know, okay, I really have to practice. I really need to shed. And you find out what you need to shed, what you really need to practice, and you just work on that because you're getting your butt kicked left and right. And that's why a lot of people are scared of New York, because they like being the best wherever they are. You know what I mean? But being the best wherever you are is different than being the best in New York.
So, I mean, yeah, was it just all day? It was either you were at school or you were practicing or you
One of
were
the
at
two.
one of the clubs or something?
One of the two. It was one of the two. It was either I was at school, because, you know, some classes are in the evening and whatever, morning to the evening, blah, 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 blah. Then after that, you know, you can go to pick your club, and you can go to, and if somebody in there, they're going to be killing. It's going to be good. You know what I mean? A lot of your jazz heroes are playing at the clubs. Like, oh my gosh, you can go here, see Mo Gramilla over here, go over here at the jam session, and you're sitting next to Roy Hargrove. Like, what the hell?
Is that how you and Roy Hargrove made that connection? Just from you being a young person in the scene and being humble? And
actually, me and Roy made a connection when I was in high school. He came to my high school because Roy's from Dallas, Texas. I'm from Houston, for a 4-hour drive. He came to my school to do a clinic because he was doing a concert in Houston, and him and his band came to my school in the afternoon in the clinic, and that literally changed my life. I've never seen a young Black famous jazz band with all Black kids that look like me. You know what I mean? A little bit, not much older, you know what I mean? Because most of the time when you're a kid in high school, you see jazz musicians, they look like your principal. You know, they have on the suits, and you don't look at them and say, I want to be that. You don't do that because you want to be with what you see a lot of times, you know what I mean? But the jazz cats were dressing cool as if it was still 1960. Like, the way you're dressing was dope, cool then, but for us looking at it, it's not cool because the rest of the world developed, and now things look different. Roy came in with like sneakers or like Timberlands and overalls and a cap, and boom, I was like, yo. And playing the way he played, I was like, oh my God, this is cool. I want to do this. And that he's the one that made me want to not ever wear slacks again. You know, he's the one that made me be like, let me know, like, oh, okay, you can. But then I had to learn, okay, you can do that once you get to a certain status. I got fired for not wearing. Wynton Marsalis fired me for not wearing the proper gear when I was in college. I did some gigs with Wynton, and I never wanted to wear a suit. I was like, I don't want to wear no suit. He was like, basically, you're not Roy Hargrove. Get your ass, you know. So I had to learn that. But once I got to a place where I could call my own shots, I definitely was like, I want to dress like me. I want to dress like who I am and tell a story when I play. And this whole thing is a story. You know what I mean? So I learned that from Roy. And then, yeah, just like, there's nothing like it. Just being around and being able to learn from other students and be scared of other students because they're so good. And that makes you want to be better. And that's where I got my connection with Bilal, you know, in college, where I met him the very first day of school. You know, they put us on stage together to play. You know, the very first day to audition together, like to audition for, you know, that's where they rate you. Oh, you're going to be in the combo number 1 or this combo, you know, whatever. That was the time when I met Bilal. We were, after the very first day of school, we're like, okay, we're best friends. This is going to happen. And we're one of 10, we're like 2 of 10 Black people at the school. So we all knew each other after the first 2 days. We're like, okay. And me and Bilal used to always go in the practice room and just play songs, write songs. You know, we're always together doing music. And one of the teachers, Arnie Lawrence, passed away now, but he started in this school. He walked in the practice room one day, like, you guys should really record. I have a friend who has a studio. You can use his studio for free. I already talked to him. After school, go over to his house. He lives around the corner. And he was the drummer for this very famous rock band in that time called the Spin Doctors.
Wow.
His name was Aaron Comas was his name. So me and Bilal started going over to Aaron Comas' house after school all the time and just recording. And Bilal got signed. He ended up getting a manager. They took one of the songs that we did and took it to Jimmy Iovine in LA. And that's when Bilal got signed to Interscope Records. And that's why it's such an important time for me, because in that time period, that's when the neo soul movement was booming. 1998, you know, it was just booming, and the Roots were doing all these jam sessions, and Bilal's from Philly, so he would take me to these jam sessions and introduce me to everybody. Questlove, Common, boom, 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 Erica, boom, 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 all these people. And we were even taking the bus to Philly sometimes on Tuesday nights, I think. They had this thing called the Black Lily, which was also a jam session that really helped birth the neo soul whole movement there. And I would go there with Bilal. So that's really what got my other side of like my neo soul R&B side cracking because I was Bilal's music director. So going on tour with him, opening up for Erica, opening up for Common, opening up for these people, and just being in that world was like that. I was doing all that, and that had its own roots in what it was doing. At the same time, Roy Hargrove took me on my first world tour, and this is all while I'm in college. This is all while I'm a sophomore. So I'm halfway on tour with Roy Hargrove and Christian McBride, and then halfway on tour with Bilal, opening up for Erica and Common. And so that was my world, doing those things, like balancing those two things, you know. And that's really what shaped my thing of like, okay, I'm on this side and I'm on this side, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, you talk about the at school you were being sort of reminded of these traditions of jazz, or just like music traditions, even more generally, that the foundations that you have to practice a lot, that you have to be able to play at the drop of a hat, play any, you know, that you have to have technical proficiency. But on the other hand, this more progressive idea of like, what is a genre? Why are we being hemmed in by this? Why do I have to wear slacks? Can I still play jazz in sweats?
It was a jazz. It can be the most in prison freest thing ever. It's like, you're free, but wear these shackles and on your hands and your feet. All right, go ahead. And it's like, wait a minute.
What do you regard now at this point as kind of your, not rules for jazz, but, you know, even things like I was saying at the Blue Note, how, you know, you would say something like, it's a jazz club, like you understand what that is, or like what jazz is. But I know you also, like, in deep admiration for Miles Davis and understanding of his philosophy about like, you gotta keep developing and moving it forward, keeping it contemporary. Like, absolutely. Have you sort of developed your own like philosophy of jazz?
Yeah, it's not even my own. It's really the Miles Davis's. It's really Miles's. Really, like, because that's where Herbie adopted it from, and that, you know, that's where all the kids adopted. That's where Roy Hargrove adapted it from. You know what I mean? Without Miles doing that, you know, even Thelonious Monk, there are certain cats that I deem like superheroes, that really like just broke the mold in not just playing music, but just even the style of, you know, the swag of it. You know what I mean? Which is part of it too. But yeah, because the funny thing is, a lot of these jazz police, they're quick to be like, I don't hear the tradition in your music. Where's the tradition? And it's all about tradition. But the reality is, the tradition of jazz is that it changes. That's the tradition. So if you really want to be a jazz police and talk about the tradition of it, the tradition is that it should change. And it should change from every 10 years it changed.
I mean, it's just it in any genre, it's a bummer that there do get to be these gatekeepers. Those gatekeepers are people who decide who's even up for a Grammy, you know,
absolutely,
and what category they're up in, and
absolutely,
you know, for the Grammys, and like,
absolutely,
and sometimes people get really fucked over by being too uncategorizable or something like that.
For sure, you're fighting to be modern. You're fighting. People say a lot of people say, "Oh, you're the future, Robert." Like, no, I'm just now. But jazz is so far behind. It now seems like the future. But it's really, I'm just relevant. I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm doing what Miles was doing. I'm just being right now, who I am right now, using my influences and being now. And you don't always have to like it. I was born in 1978. So, you know, some of the new hip hop I don't like. But I appreciate it because it's moving. It's changing. It's not what it was 20 years ago, which is a good thing. So I have to at least respect it and understand that's going to change. And that's just what it is. You know what I mean? That's how everything evolves. Everything has to evolve. You're not going to like all of it. But some people are scared of things to evolve because they don't understand it. You know what I mean? Because they'll feel like they're not a part of it anymore. It has to stay the same so I can be a part of it. I can have something to say. People have to get rid of that.
So I know you're definitely a multitasker. You're always doing lots of things at the same time. And are there other things you're working on that you're stoked about that you want to mention?
Yeah, I've really dove into film scoring.
Yeah,
I was doing a little of it before the pandemic, but during the pandemic, I really kind of dove in. And so I did this one series. Me and my friend Derek Hodge did this one series called "Run the World." It's on Stars, and then. Now I'm working on 2. Me and my boy Terrace Martin are doing a lot of stuff together. We kind of formed a production team. Me and Terrace knew each other since we were like 15 years old at jazz camp and shit. So we've definitely known each other a long time. But we're scoring the new Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the reboot, the serious version. It's like a serious series. There's a real story of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That's a real person, and it's a real story. Quincy Jones took it and made it a comedy, but it's actually a real story, a serious story.
Wow.
So this is I forget the guy's name, the real guy, but this is a real actual story. So we're doing the real story of that. We started already that, and we started the series about this movie back in the 70s called The Spook That Sat by the Door, about a CIA agent, the first Black CIA agent.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it's crazy. And Herbie actually scored it in the 70s, the movie. So now they're going to do a series on it, and me and Terrace are scoring that.
Yeah, the scoring stuff. I mean, you've been doing this for a year. You've been doing scoring stuff for years now. Like, what is it about that I can tell just by the look on your face? You love this shit too. Like, what?
Yeah, you know what it is? Because I've always been told, I was always told that my music is cinematic. Ever since I started like writing songs and like making albums and stuff, people have always said, "Oh, your music is cinematic. You should really do music for movies." Boom, 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 boom. And so it feels good when I do it, because I feel like, oh, there is a connection there. My music is cinematic now that I've actually put it to music, to put it to a movie. Like, oh, okay, it makes sense, Yeah, because right before the pandemic, also I scored this movie called The Photograph. Before that, my first movie was this Miles Davis movie called Miles Ahead that I did with Don Cheadle. And it's two different things, good and bad. There's I don't have to tour. I don't have to leave the house. You know what I mean? I could stay home, if it pays enough. I could stay home and not have to go on tour. Because that's the thing, I love to tour. I don't love having to tour. Most musicians have to tour. You have to. That's literally where you get your check. Because nowadays, especially nowadays with streaming and stuff, you can't depend on your music being sold to provide for you and your family. So you have to tour. But scoring is a way that I don't have to go anywhere. I could be home. But it's different. It's good because it's working a muscle for me, because usually when I write songs, I'm at my leisure of time of what I'm writing about, when I'm writing it. I kind of do my thing. When you're on the clock with someone else and it's a scene, and it's like, hey, now you have to pay attention to their feelings, what the director wants, whatever emotion they're trying to evoke in this scene to the people. And you have to try to make that happen through music, even if you don't agree. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's totally different in that respect. And there's a time on it. It's like, hey, we need this by 2:00.
Yeah, and it's only 20 seconds long. So just
and it's 20 seconds long. Exactly. And then they'll come back and say stuff like, could you make it less cheery, but not too cheery, kind of melancholy, but not sad, and a little bit upbeat, but make it feel slow? What? It's like, what the hell? You get
that's a good challenge. You like the challenge, though. You like the challenge,
yeah. It works out. I mean, yeah, I like the challenge. Sometimes it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I mean? But it can be a challenge, but I'm up for it. So it's something new, and it's something that I'm enjoying.
Yeah, and you get to do the other genre stuff that you like. Maybe feels like would be inconsistent, or it's not the vibe you're going for with your stuff under your own name. Absolutely. But then over here, you're like, sure, I'll write a song like that. I got that.
Exactly. Calypso? Oh, I'll do that. Cool. I did a Calypso hip hop beat the other day. I was like, oh shit, I just did that. That's what the director wanted. Kind of want a Calypso, but hip hop, but not. Like, okay.
Robert, thank you so much for connecting to talk with me. It's been great to get to know you a bit.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks again to Robert Glasper for that fascinating conversation. He's up for a couple more Grammys at the awards that are happening in early April, and I look forward to his victories there. And yeah, Black Radio 3 comes out later this month on February 25th. And we are now at the end of the episode. If you want to get the next one right when it comes out, make sure you subscribe. You can reach me with feedback or questions on Twitter @JennyLSQ. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you next time.